Yeah, so right, lads, welcome guys to the latest episode of DesiPod. Right, what happened when our parents get older? That's another issue, isn't it? That people were talking about. What do you do when they get older, and what if they had a cruel or unpleasant past, and as a child or when you were growing up, they were they mistreated you, and now they're at that age, tender age, of where they're old and frail and probably on a Zimmer frame or carrying a walking stick, and they're not what they used to be. Do you show a level of mercy towards them and think, do you know what? What you did to me in the past, I will never forget. However, I have it within my heart to still love you because there may have been a reason for you to be in that way towards me. And I'm not condoning anything like that. I'm just saying, generally, people who have mistreated people in the past, especially parents, if they're not treated you right with respect or made you feel like inadequate, it's a horrible situation to be in. I've never been in that, but I know there are people out there in our listeners who said, and I was reading the comment that why should we look after parents if we've been through a form of mistreatment with them? I mean, it's out for you guys. This is why we're raising this question. What do you do in that respect? Is that would you just become a better person and say, do you know what, I forgive you and turn the other cheek? Or would you turn around and say, no, actually, you've conditioned me in this way not to trust people because you were if you were my dad doing that to me and you were my role model and you were my hero as I was a child, wanted you to be my hero and you turn out to be the villain, I can't be that way. But then do you carry those traits within yourself? And then do you feel as though that might come out in your relationships in the future? Because they say your past behavior becomes your future behavior, doesn't it? It still lingers on somewhere or the other psychologically. I'm not a psychiatrist or anything. It's somewhat I heard. I like reading, as you can guess. But what do you think?
It's a learned behaviour, isn't it? So it's you treat others how you've been treated, and I think especially when it can be emotional abuse, can be physical abuse, irrespective. And when you've had abuse from another person, your relationships become quite difficult. And I think one of the comments we did the generation, how what do you do if that is your background? Everybody's circumstances are different. Some people were brought up, and they were quite cruel. Their parents were cruel to them, and their grandparents were cruel to their parents. And when you study this, you hear about how behavioural chain has continued. It was interesting. I recently was speaking to somebody whose mother used to be verbally quite badly abused and mistreated by his grandma, and he remembers seeing this throughout his childhood, throughout his young adult life. His grandma passed away, he got married. And then those same traits, his mother started to do on his wife. And he's like, oh, I can't be doing this. What's this about? So he ended up having to move out. And there's that old saying, isn't there, about teaching an old dog new tricks. Not that I'm calling anybody's parents an elder a dog. Never like that analogy, as much as people may like their pets. Humans, pets, and pets. But there's a thing about how you treat a person who's mistreated you, especially when that's an elder or a parent. It's quite difficult to see past the hurt that's been caused. It can be verbal, it can be emotional, it can be physical, and completely understand everybody's history and everybody's background will be different. Abdurrahman, what do you say about that? You touched on this some sessions back.
It's very difficult. I don't think there's a clear answer to this, and everybody's life and circumstances are different, and I guess that has to be respected, right? One thing we can't get away from the fact is that everybody is influenced by parental script in some way. I was reading this book, and I think this is like a seminal book on psychology. Not that I'm a therapist by any means, but they were talking about how everybody is kind of influenced in some way, consciously or unconsciously, around parental script. So the childhood experiences that you have make up your emotional structure, which tend to live with you for the rest of your life in some way, shape, or form. So there's definitely that element there that every single person is influenced by. At the same time, I would like to think that we have the autonomy to live our own life story as well, right? That we do have that independence, that no matter how difficult it is for us to eschew or abandon, liberate ourselves from whatever childhood experiences we have, our life is still our own life, right? And the way that I like to think about it is, what kinds of principles would you want to live your life by? If it's a life that's full of rancor and resentment and things like that, then ultimately it's your own life and it's your own relationships that are going to be affected by that. Not the people that have had those childhood influences. It's ultimately your life that's going to be affected, right? So I think everybody has the right to write the script of their own story. So I think at the central of all that, what are the core principles that you'd want to live your life by? For me, it's honesty, it's integrity, it's kindness, it's compassion. It's all of those types of things, right? And just doing the right by people, however difficult that is. But I would like to think, that once my days in this world are ended, the legacy I leave behind are the memories that you leave with people, right? In fact, I was actually at a funeral the other day. Funerals are never easy per se, but every single person that we spoke to said so much good about the deceased, of just how kind he was, how compassionate he was, how wise he was, how he treated elders and youngsters alike exactly the same in terms of his kind of personality and things like that. And that was really inspirational. And I was like, you know what? If I go, that's the kind of memories that I'd want to leave people with, that they thought the best of me, right? And sometimes, life is determined by how things end. So I think we get to write our own script. It's not to say it's ever going to be perfect, but at the same time, we do have that autonomy, don't we?
Indeed.
My take is simple. Once you realize the part of your thoughts, right? So, however negative you are, or however people have treated you, right? Once you realize the power of your thoughts, you won't just think anything. And once you realize the power of your speech, you won't just say anything. And once you realize the power of your presence, you won't be just anywhere. So however things have hit you in the past, you have the ability, like Abdul Rahman has just said, I'm just going to piggyback on what you said, to really change the trajectory of your life. If somebody's actually gone and done something bad to you, you need to see it from their point of view, because that person behaving that way towards you at that time may have been how they were treated, but you need to break that generational cycle. Because if you say to yourself, no, I'm not doing it, or I don't care, and then those traits are within you, and then it comes out later, and that time has passed, and your parents are no longer there, or your loved ones, and you think, and then you sat there at the tombstone, you say to yourself, damn, do you know what? I'm just like you, but I should have just forgiven you and moved on with my life and thought to myself, this is me personally speaking now, that I should have really acknowledged the fact that what you were going through or what you did to me was just because that's how you were programmed and what you went through, rather than blaming you for everything. Because to be honest with you, everybody's living their life just once. It's not a dress rehearsal, is it? So yeah, I'm at that point now. Call it 41, 42. I've got more behind me than I've got anything ahead of me. So I just want peace, man. And I just don't want that beef no more with people. Simple as. If you don't want to speak to me, fine. If you want me to stay in my lane, I stay in your lane. But I will still respect you for who you are, because that's who I am as a person. Simple as. That's me in a nutshell now. 20 years ago, would have been a loose cannon. I would have said, no, this don't happen like this. 20 years on, you think to yourself, it's like that Muhammad Ali saying, isn't it? Because if you did what you did 20 years ago and you reached the age of 40 and you did that 20 years ago, so you're 20 now, you're 40 now, but you did exactly what you did 20 years ago, then you lost 20 years of your life, because you're making the same mistakes over and over again, and you reach 40. When you reach the age of 40, you should look back and think, right, I've all these bumps and scars and scrapes and bruises, I've become a better person.
Yes,